On today's episode, we're going to interview my editor and one of my favorite people, Tiffany White from Writers Untapped. One of the most important pieces of advice you'll get from an indie author is to get an editor. We're going to talk with Tiffany to discuss why, what to look for in an editor, and what services you can look forward to once you contact one. Hello, Yin Lieblings. I'm Madi, science fiction and fantasy author who's been living in southern Germany since 2014. Today, we're going to talk about editors. If you are thinking about self-publishing, you need one. It makes a huge difference between an amateur writer and a career that you want to take seriously. It's a costly venture, but it is an investment when you're playing the long game. Even if you think you can get away with not hiring an editor, you can be branded as a writer of subpar work, and it can stick with you even after you then decide to hire an editor. Do it from the get-go. I can also say that having a professional editor has also helped me become a better writer, forcing me to learn in a way that I would not have accomplished on my own. But before we get started, hit the subscribe button and ring the bell if you haven't already. Here on Adventures of Lamadi, we talk about writing, living abroad, and everything in between. So let's get to that interview. All right. Well, Tiffany, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yay. Yes, I'm so excited to have everyone meet you because seriously, you are a godsend. You're so awesome.
Thank you.
All right. So why don't we start with this interview by having you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I became an editor. I opened my own editing business about 3 years ago. Before that, I got my degree in screenwriting. So I've always had, an interest in writing and reading. And so I actually got a job while I was in college working for this company where they would send me books and I would read the books and then I would write up basically reader reports of the books. So I would kind of analyze, the character and the plot and whatever. It was I got paid nothing. I got paid $100 a book. So it was, but at the time I loved it. I thought it was the best job. And so that really fostered this interest in me, in reading books and critiquing them. Eventually I became a teacher. Did that for 6 years, but teaching is a really hard profession. And I was just becoming really unhappy with being a teacher. So my husband suggested, I hadn't written, at that point, probably 9 or 10 years. And my husband was like, why don't you get back into writing? I had given him something I had written. And he was like, this is amazing. You need to get back into writing. So somehow I fell into Twitter and I discovered this, this whole writing community on Twitter. And it's crazy when you discover it because it's how has this existed and I didn't know about it? It's an underground community, but then it's not. Once you're a part of it, it's so huge,
It's huge.
And
it is huge.
But I couldn't believe that all my years as a writer, I had never known that this writing community existed. So, I fell in, I started writing and I was really loving writing and I was becoming more miserable, as a teacher in my career. And I was like, I need to do something different. I can't do this anymore. And so I was just brainstorming and I thought back to that job that I did in LA where I was reading those books and analyzing them. And so I decided, maybe I could open my own editing business. And at that point I had been beta reading for a lot of people. And, people were giving me really good feedback, wow, your feedback is so detailed as a beta reader. And just really complimentary things that was making me think, I might be good at this. So I decided I would teach one more year, but I would spend that whole year teaching, preparing to open up my business. So, I went and I got certifications. I enrolled in editing certifications. I took classes. I read a lot of craft books. I connected with a lot of editors just to see what they do and, what the day-to-day kind of business life is like. I just did all that stuff and I just spent a year preparing. And then after a year, I opened up my editing business and it's gone great. I mean, I was really nervous to do this. I was really scared of what's going to happen. It's kind of a big, risk to take opening up your own business. But I think because I was already in that writing community on Twitter and on Instagram. That helped a lot. That helped
Mm-hmm.
kind of spread the word about my business. And I got busy really fast. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, 3 years later, here I am.
That's
And it's
great.
going well.
Yes. Oh yeah, I know. I see, because I know, I know some of the other authors that you've worked with as well, and just seeing how everybody's careers been going. It's really cool. It's really cool to see that and to know like, yeah, Tiffany's been a part of that, Oh, that's so
I know. Crazy. I mean, it's like the best, it's the biggest honor, you know what I mean? Getting
Mhm.
to be a part of authors like book journeys and just,
Mhm.
yeah, everybody's doing so many of my clients. I'm just like so impressed and proud because being an indie author, I mean, it's it's hard.
It's hard. Yeah. Oh yeah.
So hard. You have to wear so many different hats. So I'm continually just like in awe of, a lot of my clients and how
Oh,
amazing they're doing.
it is. Yeah, and especially those ones that like that when you see them succeed, it's like, oh, yes, it's so satisfying because you know how much effort they put into it.
Yeah.
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 So much effort.
Mm. Definitely. Um, well, okay, my next question was going to be how'd you decide to get into editing, but you did a wonderful job.
I guess like when you asked about me, I just like that's
Yeah,
about me.
no, and that's
I have a I have a husband and I have a baby. That's also,
that's also in there. Oh yeah. Yep. So in terms of your editing business, what services do you offer?
Yeah, so I offer pretty much everything. I do developmental editing, which I guess I can just kind of like give a little rundown for those of you who
Hmm.
don't know. Developmental editing is more of like big picture story edits. Then I do line and copy editing. I used to offer those separately, but I realized that when I'm copy editing, I can't really help myself, and I end up line editing. So I offer those together. Line editing is more like awkward phrasing, show versus tell,
Hmm.
transitions, adding transitions in there. If you notice repetitive words or filter words or filler words, I mean, that's all kind of line editing. Copy editing is just straight up grammar, spelling, those kind of things. So I used to offer them separately, like I said, but I realized that when I copy edit, I always line edit. So
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
do them together now. If I
Hmm.
do copy editing for you, I pretty much do line editing too. So I do those. Those are like the major ones. And then I also do query edits for those who want to get an agent and want to go the traditional route. I do query and synopsis package kind of edits. So
That's really good. That's good.
yeah, I
Oh
can
yeah,
give you.
you also yes, you also offer in your newsletter, so people are interested. You have a newsletter that goes like down like further down this path in terms of querying and going into the traditional route.
Yeah, I don't know, querying is such a hard kind of journey. And so it's just like something I'm really interested in. And I'm kind of like passionate about helping people navigate the query world because it's so
Hmm.
hard and
Hmm.
difficult and it's so easy to like be disillusioned and give up. So I do have a newsletter that people can, subscribe to. And I just do my best to give query tips and I give resources that I'm, constantly kind of tweaking and
Hmm. Hmm.
creating that I send out. And yeah, it's just there for anybody who's querying and who feels like maybe they need a little bit more help and tips and whatever. That's what my newsletter is for. So
That's really awesome. You have also gone you have been aiming to go the traditional route as well.
yeah, so I had an agent. I'll cover this in my newsletter eventually, but we parted ways recently in
Okay.
November.
Okay.
So yeah, I did query and I did get an agent, and then we parted ways, and now I'm querying again. So
Okay.
I'm gonna hopefully we'll see. I'm on the road to hopefully getting an agent again.
All right, so in terms of editing, why don't we talk about editing style? So, for just a real quick rundown for the non-US crowd, or at least the non-American, I guess. Um, uh, German is usually very simple in terms of, you have High German, and that's like it. And
Mhm.
what's spoken in High German is in Germany and Austria and Switzerland, and so it's very like black and white. But what people don't realize is that in the US, there are several different editing styles. And I will put them on the screen here with the ones that we have. And So my question to you, Tiffany, is what is the editing style that you work with and why?
Yeah, so I mean, you have like different types of English. You know, you have American English and like British English, and then you
Hmm.
have, there's, I mean, Australians, I don't know if they speak more like British, if they adhere to the more British Canadians. I mean, there's
Hmm.
just so many different types of,
Hmm.
you know, and so you have to, I work with American English mainly, but I have had clients in the past who have said, I live in Canada and I prefer British English. So then you just really have to pay attention to everything instead of color, COLOR. I need to
Hmm.
make sure it's COLOUR, the way
Hmm.
they want
Hmm.
to, and
Hmm.
using S instead of Z in different words like colonized, with a Z
Right.
versus S. So you have to think about stuff like that.
So that's
So I can do different styles, but I'm definitely most comfortable with American. And then you have style guides, which
yes.
you have the Chicago style guide, you have, the AP Associated Press style guide. And then every publishing company, the big five, Macmillan and whatever, Penguin, Random House, all that, they have their own style guides that their editors have to adhere to. So it's a
Hmm.
lot. I follow Chicago. Most fiction editors are going to follow Chicago. And then you have British, and they follow a different style guide as well. I think theirs is like Oxford or something like that.
Hmm. Hmm.
I don't remember exactly.
Yeah.
So I follow Chicago manual of style. That's the most common one for fiction editors. And so
Hmm.
it gets confusing because, people think they know the rules. They go through high school English and they take college English and they think they know all the grammar rules. So sometimes you'll get people who will comment, there's errors in your book or whatever, but it's not really errors. It's just that the rules that they know are outdated or they learned from a different style guide than
Hmm.
what us editors follow. Like I know when I taught high school English, we taught from MLA and
Right.
MLA style, and
Yeah.
MLA is
That's
not something that hardly anyone uses in the professional world. Like, I
yeah.
mean, maybe it is, but not in the fiction world. It's not,
Hmm.
nobody
Hmm.
follows MLA. And then Associated Press is really more for academic journals, things like that. So yeah, it's just very interesting. And it is hard sometimes because, like a big thing with some of my clients was you don't capitalize queen or king, if
Hmm.
there's a the before it.
Hmm. Hmm.
The queen, the king, it's not capitalized according to
Hmm.
Chicago. But if you read a lot of popular fiction books by like Leigh Bardugo or Sarah J. Maas, you'll see king and queen are capitalized. And so they're like confused by that. But I'm like, well, that's because the style guide that copy editor was following, that's what
That's what they specify.
yeah, that's what they specified. Or specifically Leigh Bardugo or Sarah J. Maas specified, I want this capitalized,
Right.
and
Right.
even
Oh yeah.
I don't know the details of it, but so yeah, it gets interesting. There's a lot of different style guides you can follow, but
Hmm.
most fiction editors are going to follow Chicago. And it is your job as a client, though, to advocate for yourself. So if there is something that the editor does that you don't like, that you say, I really don't like that. I really want queen and king to be capitalized. You just have to let them know so
Right.
they can
Right.
make it consistent. Because the worst thing is the inconsistency.
Inconsistency. Oh yeah. 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 That's something that I always try to like keep in mind and then have to like, write down, okay, how am I like, for example, with my series is when I refer to Mandan as the redhead, I'm like, am I doing redhead as one word, two words, or hyphenated? It's like I and then I don't remember which one I use and then I have to go back.
Yeah, that's what the style sheet is for.
Exactly, exactly. Yes, yes, yes. Yep. uh, Yeah, because I remember you posting about that with Chicago, and I was like, oh man, what did we learn in school? And I was asking some of my high school friends, and yeah, because we also learned MLA as well. And then I was looking it up, and I because I remember that there's so many different styles, and like I said, with in Germany, I always get people tell me, oh, English is so easy, English is so easy. I'm like, yes, until you try to write it, like,
Or edit it.
or
And you have
edit it
like
exactly.
rules you have to, and they're just like some of the rules, even Chicago, I'll go, why is it like that? Like, why?
Yeah.
Some of them I don't like, but I feel like I have to follow because that's my job.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's English it is such a weird language. You're such a hodgepodge of like all these rules that we just stole, and then with these style guides it's like, oh well, this one doesn't work anymore, we're gonna do it this way now. And
right. Yeah. And the update style guides, before I have a big common thing is people will put a comma before to at the end of a sentence or a comma
Mhm.
after so at the beginning of a sentence, which that used to be correct. And it's not incorrect. It still is not incorrect, but Chicago did update to say those commas are not necessary in most situations unless you absolutely need them for like clarity.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's something I do with pretty much every manuscript I get. They have the comma after the so and before the to, and you
Yeah.
don't need so. But it's not incorrect technically. Like I said, it's just an updated. You
Right.
know,
Right.
I was like, you don't really need those anymore. So
Or like there's literally the two camps between like the Oxford comma and what is the other one? I just know Oxford comma. I'm a stan Oxford comma. the,
yeah.
the heathens, I guess. Like,
Yeah, that's what we'll call them. Yeah, that
like
one makes me cringe. I like that comma there.
I
So
save here. In German they don't have that. So it really jars me when I have to write, and they're like, the comma doesn't go there. And I'm like, but ugh!
it does. Yeah, I
It
know.
should, but yeah.
It is. I can't even imagine speaking and writing and being fluent in another language, that has completely different rules and conventions.
Hmm.
That would be
Oh
so
yeah, I mean German. I mean, because I was a translator between from German to English, and one of the hardest things is because you're doing technical writing, and technical German is like the opposite of technical English, because technical English is active voice. It's like, do this, do this, do this, but in German it's passive voice.
oh
This
my
is
god.
done. This is done. I'm like, oh, and but you try to find that, like, to walk that fine line of like how much you're going to try to correct them,
Right.
you know
Well,
because
because
in
it
the
needs to be corrected, because
exactly, it's like it needs to be understood, which is like,
right.
at the end of the day, it's the most important. And but I guess enough people have gotten after them about it. So you notice even in their German language, they have been taking a more active voice, so that when it gets translated into English, it's easier to translate. And so I think that's just really interesting how they've, at least in the company that I worked for, how they've been evolving their vocabulary, or their language, their technical language.
Yeah, to make it like more, I guess, fitting for the American for
Yeah,
the American
yeah, because they a lot of their documents, because they don't just cater to Americans, but like in other countries. So English usually has to be available, and then after that, maybe in the language of that country. But so like English is kind of like the default language,
Mhm.
but it's a German company, so it's actually German for them, because a lot of them, like they have to write it in a way that they're going to obviously understand it first, and then it has to get translated to English and then back. It is,
Oh my
it's
god.
amazing. It amazes me how they make it work.
No,
Oh
I
yeah.
that would like break my brain, I feel like.
Right.
But
I know there are days I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna translate it. I'm not gonna ask questions. Just gonna
right.
I'm not gonna give myself a hernia. It's fine. All right. So my next question will be: so what do you recommend to writers? What they should do when preparing to work for an editor? Or actually, let's start with looking for an editor. What do you think writers should look for in an editor?
Yeah, well, I always think it's good. I mean, editors, there's so many good editors out there, and so it's really about finding the right editor for you. So I always think it's a really good idea to ask for a sample edit from an editor, just so you can get a sense of their style. Because
Mhm.
I might be a great editor, but you might not like the way I edit. You might not like that I make comments about the different things and, whatever. You might not like the way I make my comments. It just might not jive with you. So it's always a good idea to just get a sample edit from different editors. I would contact at least like 3 or 4. I don't know. I don't recommend going out to like 11 or 12 because that would be just an insane. Some people do that and it's like, that's too many.
Yeah.
Yeah. So many different editors to choose from. And then so that's what I recommend as far as trying to find an editor. I think the sample edit is the best way. And then you could also, secondarily, you can also check out if they have a website that, hopefully they have a website that makes them a little bit more legit. It means they're probably more serious about their business. I'm not saying you can't hire an editor that doesn't have a website. I'm just saying it might be, a little bit of a red flag if they don't have a professional, at least a Facebook page or something.
Right.
Check out their social media too. If they're on, not all editors are on social media, that's fine. But if they have social media, you can also check that out just to, make sure they're professional. You don't like want to be working with somebody who's like cussing people out on Twitter constantly or, acting in like that kind of manner. So that could be a good way to also check out an editor. But the sample edit is going to be the best way to just make sure that you're really comfortable with their editing style and that you think it would really work well for you. And then obviously you want to make sure that you're clear on all the details. You want to make sure they're going to send you a contract and that they're very clear on timelines. I don't know. Some people, I don't know how this works at all. I can't imagine being an editor and not giving a timeline, but I'll hear from people posting in Facebook groups, like writers posting in Facebook groups, like my editors had my book for 4 months now and they never told me they're gonna have it back and I don't know what, and that just like gives me a panic attack.
It would give me a panic attack. Yeah, no, I'm so for I like, when you give your contract, you give those exact dates, so I have them in my calendar and I know it's so, I just cannot imagine not working like that.
Yeah, I can't either, but it's fine. Everybody has their process, but you just have to make sure you're comfortable with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so that's
exactly.
You want to ask those questions. When will my manuscript be back to me? And you want to know how they're editing. Make sure they're using Chicago. If they don't even know what a style guide is or things like that, those are going to be red flags. So,
yeah.
You want to make sure you're not just hiring the random cheapest person off of Fiverr. That doesn't really know what they're doing, but they're like, I know English pretty well, so I'm going to be an editor and edit people's, that happens all the time. So that's my recommendation. And then as far as preparing for an editor, you always want to make sure your manuscript's in the best shape possible before it comes to your editor, just because the better shape your manuscript's in, the deeper an editor's going to be able to dive. If your manuscript is just full of errors everywhere, that's the editor is only going to be able to focus on those errors and they can't actually like dive deeper and look at like sentence construction and things like that. So the cleaner your manuscript is, the better job an editor is going to be able to do and the deeper they're going to be able to dive into those edits. So yeah, I definitely recommend readers, making sure there's other eyes. Don't just like write a first draft and send it off to an editor. That's going to be a waste of your money.
Oh, absolutely. I honestly, when I think back what my first draft, especially like at the last Imperator, the first draft, between the first draft and what I actually gave you. Oh no. Like even I like looked at the first draft and I was like, oh God, this is,
yours was so good for the developmental edit because, you had hired me to do a developmental edit of the God Queen. And then the last Imperator, that was what happened. It was so well written that I was able to dive deeper, into those developmental edits. And it wasn't about making huge structural changes.
Oh yeah.
The story didn't change. It was just about like little tweaks,
the things that like that, that it made sense to me. So I didn't think about it, but you had questions and it was like, oh yeah, I need to make sure to connect these things just a little bit more because, outside of my head, it doesn't always make sense to people.
Yeah. I think that's what happens with every writer and every
Exactly. Yep.
So that's completely normal.
Oh yes. All right. So in terms of writing, those are the questions that I have. And I have some more personal fun questions I want to ask you. So Oh, actually, yeah. So as a writer, what can you tell us about your projects?
Yeah, okay. So right now I'm working, I don't know, I have a bunch of projects. So I'm
Mhm.
querying a project that's a YA. I mainly write young adult. But I say that, but then I have all these adult ideas that I want to write. But right now I'm mainly in YA. So I'm querying a YA rom-com basically about a girl who has bad luck with dating.
Mhm.
And she has been on just so many disastrous dates, and she's just starting to kind of think that maybe she's just not good at dating. She doesn't know how to date. So she gets an opportunity to host a dating podcast, and she decides that she's going to jump on that opportunity because it might be a really great way for her to learn a little bit more about herself and to learn about dating in the process. So
Mhm.
it's kind of like a so she's learning about dating, and it's a rom-com. So she has a co-host that's like completely obnoxious, and she doesn't like him, but of course he's her love interest. And so they're hosting this podcast together about dating, and then they're
Mhm.
slowly having feelings for each other, and there's all sorts of drama with that. So that's the one I'm querying right now. And then I'm drafting a YA fantasy that's a Pride and Prejudice gothic fantasy retelling.
Awesome.
I'm not even going to try and pitch that because I don't have a pitch in my mind for it yet. It's come out as probably like a 10-minute like
Well, that's awesome though. That is
moment
awesome.
I don't need to hear. So
Oh, that's so cool. That's cool. Yeah, I'll have to, yeah, I have to tell you afterwards about like some of the other projects
yeah,
I have in
I
mind.
want to hear.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. All right. So, outside of, let's see. Oh, actually, another question that came up while you were talking, because I had seen on one of your posts, they're talking about like, what was it like, was it unpopular romance opinions? And you talked about I guess, the differences between romance and rom-com.
Mhm.
Can you want to expand on that?
Yeah, so something that really drives me crazy, I in the industry, and this isn't even necessarily writers. Sometimes it's writers' faults because writers think they've written a rom com, but really they've just written a contemporary romance, which is completely great. That's fine. But a lot of times, traditionally published books are marketed. And this is not the writer's fault. This is the publishing marketing team. They
Hmm.
market it
Hmm.
as a rom com, and so I get disappointed because then it's really just a contemporary romance. And so the difference is rom com is basically the whole premise is set upon a comedic kind of premise, and you have a lot of hijinks, you have a lot of comedic stunts, you have a lot of comedic settings and comedic scenes, things like that. And I think sometimes people think when they've written a contemporary romance because it's really hooky, because the idea is hooky and because the voice is funny, that it's a rom-com. But it's not just a voice that makes something a rom-com, it's also the physical things that happen in the book. um,
Hmm. Hmm.
so for example, Sarah Hogel, I think that's how you pronounce the last name. I'm sorry if I mispronounced it, Sarah. She wrote a book called You Deserve Each Other. And it is a true rom-com. It's about two people who are engaged, and they both dislike each other. And they're engaged,
Okay.
but they've learned they don't like each other in this relationship. Well, they have a wedding coming up, and it's a really expensive wedding. And they both separately realize whoever breaks it off is going to have to pay the bill for this wedding that they're going to have,
Hmm.
because they've already paid for everything for this wedding. So they're both engaging in these situations where they're trying to get the other person to break up with them.
Gotcha.
That's
Gotcha.
like a true comedic premise,
Right.
because you,
Right.
you come up with a lot of over the top, just crazy stunts that they're pulling to try and get
Right.
the other person to break up with them so they won't be footed with the wedding bill.
Right. Right.
And then
Right. Okay.
obviously they slowly, through all these stunts, realize that, oh wait, maybe we do actually love each other and we don't want to break up. But so that's a really good rom com, and that's
Okay.
that's
Okay.
the main difference for me. I think sometimes people think because they have a funny voice that means it's a rom com, but that the funny voice is not alone what makes a rom com.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. That makes me then wonder about Sophie Kinsella. Have you read any of her stuff?
Yeah, hers is more. She does write rom coms, I think, in some ways, but hers she writes a lot of chick lit too. Like Michelle
Yeah.
Alex series is more chick lit because romance is not
It's not the
central
main,
to the
right,
story.
right. Yeah, it's one thing I do like about Sophie Kinsella is that like her characters, they go through personal growth.
Mhm.
Sometimes I feel like I mean the romance may be a part of it. Sometimes it's just like just a side thing that's just convenient, like like a extra icing on top, so to speak.
It's a subplot kind of.
Right, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, okay. Yeah, I read the
Our rom-coms. Like I don't know if you've read Can You Keep a Secret?
yes. That was the
Yes.
first one I read. Actually, I have it right here.
It's so funny. Oh my
I
God.
love Can You Keep a Secret?
So funny. I think that's a rom-com because
Yeah,
I mean it's over the top. There's so many over the top things happening. You know, the first scene is her on a plane spilling like her entire life story to a stranger because she thinks they're about to crash and die. I mean, that's pretty over
exactly. It
the top.
it is. No, that's very true. That is very true. Huh.
So yeah, that's to me, that's how I define the difference between rom-com and contemporary romance. And the truth is, if you're querying, you can market your book or pitch it however you want, but it's not up to you. The publishers are gonna call it what they want to call it. If
Yeah.
you're going the indie route though, you have control over that. And I would just say the big thing is what bothers me about it is I'll read a book really expecting the rom-com feature. It'll be called the rom-com, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so excited to like laugh and to see just like the
Right.
stunts going on. And then I'll be so disappointed, and it'll make me rate the book lower because even though
It,
it's a perfectly good it's great, it's well written, it's perfectly good,
mhm,
but it was marketed as something different than what it should be. So I get really disappointed as a reader because it's not what I was expecting. Whereas if
mhm,
I was
mhm.
just in the mood for a contemporary romance and that's what it's marketed as, then it's like, this is perfect. This is exactly what I
Right,
was.
right.
So
Oh, that's really good to know. That is really good to know. Because I saw that conversation. I was like, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. And then you brought it up when you were talking about what you're writing. I was like, ah, yeah, that's a good question. Good time to ask.
yeah.
All right. Awesome. So, what other things do you like to do outside of editing and writing?
Yeah. I don't know. I had a baby like 10 months ago. So I feel like my whole life is just like, what do I like to do? I don't know anymore. So, I love reading. And then, so of course, I love reading. And then pre COVID, my husband and I play sand volleyball a lot. We love sand volleyball. We have a team. We're terrible. We've come in like last or second to last, probably like the last like 6 seasons that we've played. Like our team is just awful. But we play for fun. It's just a lot of fun,
Yeah.
get together and play sand volleyball. And then we love traveling. I'm really, really passionate about traveling. So it's always our goal to take one international trip and one like domestic trip a year.
Hmm.
So this was all pre-COVID. COVID's kind of like thrown everything out the window, but
Yep. Yep.
we love doing. So those are kind
Oh,
of
that's
like my
fun.
top things, I
Hmm.
would say.
That's awesome. That is
Yeah.
great. All right. My next 5 questions are going to be like a little more off the wall. Now that
Okay.
I dug deep. So I think, all right. So, first one is, what is your favorite dish to cook?
Oh, no. I cook so many things. My husband always complains because I never make the same thing twice. I just like continually.
Awesome.
He's like, I really liked that one thing you made that one time, and you haven't made it in like 4 years. Um, probably, probably the thing I would just say the thing that I cook the most, like that I repeat, is chili. I really love chili. I love
Mm,
making different types of chili and like just like experimenting with like adding a little bit of sweet, like pineapple juice or things like that, or just like completely salty or like different types of meat, like having pork and beef. I don't know. I like chili.
mm, chili's awesome. That's great. That is good. That is good. All right. So, next question. If you were to trade places with someone else for 1 month, living or dead, famous or not, fictional or real, who would you like that person to be?
Oh, I would love, I don't know if anybody knows the Bucket List family, but they're this
Mm,
family. They're so cool. They're this family that started traveling with their 3 kids around the
mm-hmm,
world and started like putting it on Instagram, and they just
mm-hmm.
became like super famous for their travels. And now they have a beach house in Hawaii where they live, and then they travel and they make money off of traveling. So like I would be any one of them.
Increase your odds. One of the 5.
Any one of them. I will be one of them. I'm fascinated by their life. I follow them on Instagram and they're so cool.
Yeah.
And they are like having a show made after them. They got
That's so cool.
Disney and Netflix like are interested in. There's just all this stuff. They're just such a cool family. And they go everywhere. And it's just, I love it. Since I love traveling, it's like, that is so cool.
Oh, yes. That's good. That's really good. I'll have to check them out.
Yeah, they're so fun.
That's really awesome. All right, next question. If you could pick one food to eat for the rest of your life, what would you choose and why?
Oh, that's easy. Tacos. I love tacos.
Tacos.
Street tacos, though. I lived in Mexico for a year. I lived in Oaxaca, Mexico for a year, and that food, I could just eat that food. I never got sick of the food. It's just so good. So tacos for the rest of my life. That would be easy. I could
tacos. I actually introduced taco, like, so you can I was at tacos. I mean, Europe, when it comes to Mexican food, is it's okay. Yeah. It's okay.
I lived in Germany for 6 months, and yeah, the Mexican food was not the best.
No. I remember, like, I think I went to a Mexican restaurant in Italy, and I'm trying to remember like what their salt, like their nachos were. I think they just used plain potato chips. They didn't even have nachos. And I remember being like, what is this shit? Like, I'm insulted.
That is not it.
No, it's bad. But you can get like Old El Paso taco kits here.
Oh, that's nice.
So yeah, I mean it's it's okay. It passes. And I'd introduced that, like, my husband loves it, so of course, like, if we want to get like Taco Tuesday, he's on board with that. Definitely we'll have to, when we go back to the States, I'll have to take him to like a proper Mexican restaurant so you can try like actual tacos. And and then he'll probably never want to eat Old El Paso ever again, but that's okay.
I don't discriminate. Like, honestly, I love Taco Bell. I mean, I love street tacos more than I love Taco Bell. But like, I love Taco Bell. I'll go to Taco Bell and get their crunchy tacos. I'm on board with all tacos.
What did I make? They had like, what was it? The kind that they had at Taco Bell where they like fold the tortilla in it of itself. I don't know what that's called.
Like a crunch wrap. I am like an expert.
There's a crunch wrap
menu, so you can.
Yes.
I know.
Yeah. So that crunch wrap, I saw that and I was like, oh, that looks really cool. So I made something like that, and so the husband liked that a lot. It was a good change. And then
they have like tacos too. Like, they got Taco Bell. Yeah. Well, they got rid of a lot of their good stuff. Don't get me started on that.
You could do a whole bit. I heard about that. One of my other friends back home was just like, I swear to God, you take one more thing off that menu, Taco Bell, we're gonna riot.
Oh, yeah. People are outraged. Me and they took like everything I loved. Like, come on, Taco Bell. Why would you?
That's not good. They gotta do us dirty like that. Yeah. Not cool. No. Mm-hmm. Okay. Next question. What's your favorite 90s jam?
Oh God. I probably am not going to be good at this question because I don't even know. I don't know. I like Garth Brooks. He's from the 90s, right? That works, maybe.
Yeah, he was big he was definitely very big in the 90s. Yes, definitely.
Okay, yes. I love Garth Brooks. I love his song called That Summer. It's one of my favorite Garth Brooks songs. It's so good. It's like very steamy. It's about like this 18-year-old boy who goes to be like a farmhand for this woman who's in like her 20s and she's widowed, and they fall in love. Well, I don't know if they fall in love. They fall in lust.
Nice. That's awesome. What was it? I think what was, I had a Garth Brooks album that I used to listen to a lot when I was younger. I think it was Rope in the Wind. I think that was the album. Mm-hmm. And what was it? Burning Bridges. I think that was my favorite that I would just like have on repeat.
He's so good, honestly. I mean, I like all of his songs, and in concert, he's amazing. He doesn't even like plan his concerts. He just literally will ask the audience like what songs they want to hear, and people will shout.
Oh, that is cool.
He'll just get his guitar and just strum and just play. Like, he's just.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a true performer right there.
Yeah.
Oh man, that is so cool. All right, so my last question. like my favorite question to ask people. What would you rather fight? 1 horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
I feel like I'd rather, I mean, a horse-sized duck would be terrifying, but I feel like if I had to fight like duck-sized horses, they would be so cute. And I don't know, I wouldn't want to like hurt them. Whereas like a horse-sized duck, I would be like genuinely afraid, and I don't think I'd mind like doing some damage. Like, oh, little cute. I don't want to fight little cute duck-sized horses.
One of my friends also was aiming for the duck-sized horses. She's like, because you can punt them. Like the image of her punting
it would be a lot easier to defeat. I think it would just be so cute. I wouldn't be.
It would be.
It would be like,
really cute.
So I would just die, I guess. I don't know.
Well, yeah. I would then maybe say you'd fight the 100 duck-sized horses, but at least that's the way you go.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Like getting eaten by a horse-sized duck. That's the nightmare I didn't know I had. So
yeah. That's something I would want on my gravestone.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I went there. Anyway, that is all the questions I have. You have been so awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time and entertaining me by answering these questions.
Yeah, thank you for having me. First YouTube video in the book, so I'm excited.
Woohoo! Yes. So if you want folks to find you, where can they find you?
Yeah, so you can go to my website, which is www.writersuntapped.com, and then you can also find me on Instagram @WritersUntapped or on Twitter @Tiffany KAYE_. Tiffany K_. So there you go. I'm everywhere.
Awesome. Great. I will make sure to have all that stuff in the description box. Awesome. In case, so that people can make sure to find you. Because yes, people, if you want an editor, I can tell you from experience, this one's awesome.
Thank you.
So not get too busy because I eventually will have more books for you to edit. So I can't afford to have you be so busy, that you forget about me when you're famous and
right.
so busy.
You don't have to worry.
Awesome. Oh, it's good to hear. All right, thank you again, and hopefully maybe we'll have you back on here. We can talk other industry stuff sometime.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, of course. All right, then. So back to the studio.
What do you think? Do you want an editor now? Is she awesome? I love her. If you want information, I'll make sure that I have her website and all of her social media in the description box. I highly recommend you follow her. She gives so much wonderful writing advice, and she's also just, amazing, an amazing person. And I heart her. I heart her loads. Heart, isn't that right? Heart, Roxy. And that's it. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're new here, please consider subscribing and give this video a thumbs up, because it lets me and YouTube know that you like content like this and you want to see more. Please leave me a comment if you have any questions or if there's a certain topic you'd like to see on this channel. If you are interested in getting in touch with Tiffany, definitely follow her on Twitter, and I will put her website in the description box below. I cannot recommend her enough. She truly has made me a better writer, and I love working with her. If you want fun escapism, my space fantasy The God Queen is available in ebook, paperback, and hardback, and the sequel The Last Imperator is also available for pre-order. Both were edited by Tiffany, and she is brilliant, so check it out. And don't forget to sign up for the TLI pre-sale giveaway. If you sign up for my newsletter, you'll get the first 6 chapters of The God Queen, as well as the prequel short story The Knight and the Goddess, so sign up! And also, if you read any of my work or the work of your favorite author, please leave us reviews. They really help us authors out, and it is free to do so. And don't forget to connect with either me or Tiffany on social media, whether it is through Instagram, Twitter, or the Facebooks. And that's it. Until next time, say ade, Roxy. Ade!